Hey friend, ever wondered why you're so tired all the time? Why you need that afternoon caffeine hit every day just to stay in the game? Hint, you probably need more sleep. So I created something just for you. It's my 7-day sleep makeover. I'll teach you the 3 steps you need to move from exhausted to energized so you can live out your brilliant dreams. Head to brilliantbalance.net/sleep and start your sleep makeover today. You're going to love this. I'm Cherylanne Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 104 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And today we are talking about instilling growth mindset in our children with my guest, Alexandra Eidens of the Big Life Journal. I am going to get into a little bit of backdrop this morning about what is growth mindset. If this is a new term for you, tune in your ears here because this is really a game-changing concept. One of those things that when I was first exposed to this idea of growth mindset, it blew my mind. I cannot explain to you how radically this has changed the way I've thought about my own life and about parenting and about the legacy that I want to leave in the world. So I am so delighted to have Alexandra on the show today. Alexandra and her team are on a mission to help children develop a growth mindset so that they can face life's challenges with confidence. And together with her team, she's created all kinds of resources, most notably the Big Life Journal for kids ages 4 and up. This year, they actually launched a podcast called Big Life Kids, and that is topping the charts on iTunes around the world. So it's going to be great to get into this conversation with her in just a minute. But before I do, I want to ground you in what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to share a little bit of background on growth mindset and its polar opposite, which we call fixed mindset. And all of this is rooted in Carol Dweck's work. Carol is a psychologist at Stanford University, and she has done the preeminent research on growth mindset. So essentially, we're dealing with a continuum here. Fixed mindset on one side, growth mindset on the other. And the basic difference is that in growth mindset, anyone who has a growth mindset, the belief is that our most basic abilities can be developed through hard work, right? That brains and talent are just the starting point. And that with effort, with persistence, we can get better at things we care about. So this whole viewpoint, this belief system really creates a love of learning, it creates resilience, and those things we know are essential for truly great accomplishment in the world, okay? According to Carol Dweck, when a student, or an adult for that matter, has a fixed mindset, which is on the other end of the spectrum, their belief is that their basic abilities, things like intellect and athletic capability or musical talent, are fixed traits, right? Their belief is that you're born with it and that the way you are today is as good as you will ever get, okay? So those are the two ends of the spectrum. Growth mindset, abilities and intelligence can be developed with effort, can be developed with learning, can be developed with persistence. Fixed mindset says it's really about being gifted, right? It's being lucky to be born that way. And they manifest very different behavior patterns in the populations who have these two mindsets. So if you think about growth mindset, what character traits or what behavior traits would these people likely have? Well, they would persist in their efforts to learn new things, right? They would work on improving their skills, not just giving up because, they think they're genetically doomed to fail. So if you have a fixed mindset, and you get into a math class and you are struggling, you are going to walk out of that math class saying, what? I'm not good at math. And you're going to carry that label around as an identity marker. I am not good at this. I'm not the kind of person who's good at math. But if you have a growth mindset and you get into a math class and it is difficult and you are struggling, then you are going to double down on your effort, right, to learn the skill, to get better. That's a child example, and we're going to talk a lot about children today, but I want you to think about how this applies to adults. Specifically, where it was transformational for me was in the arena of entrepreneurship, right? So many things about entrepreneurship require us to learn skills we have never tackled before. They require us to try things that we have never tried to do before. And if you come into that arena with a fixed mindset and something is hard, what do? You abandon ship, right? You quit. You think, God, there are easier ways for me to make a living. But if you come into it with a growth mindset, then it's like a puzzle to be solved. Every challenge, every problem that arises is like this exciting puzzle that you can get better at, right? Or it's like a game that you're playing where every round of the game, you develop a little bit more skill. And I think it's important to note here that a fixed mindset doesn't necessarily seem dangerous at first. It basically says success is about being more gifted than other people. So if you were ever told, think back to as a child, you're so lucky that you were born so smart, or wow, you're so athletically gifted, or look, she's such a natural beauty. All of those statements prime us for a fixed mindset. I think of it as it's the baby you're born with it, right? Mindset. And aren't you lucky that you were? Because things just come easily to you. So in this case, though, what's kind of insidious about fixed mindset is it can lead to a brand of perfectionism where our number one goal is to look and feel extremely accomplished all the time. Right? We want to make zero mistakes. We want to do it, whatever it is, perfectly. And if you think about how that plays out, it can result in us making choices that play it safe, right? Where we stay in a really small arena where we can remain quote unquote perfect, right? And we can avoid any appearance of failure. So that desire to have control over how it looks to the outside world, to be capable all the time, that's really the hallmark of fixed mindset. And often people who will say, gosh, I'm just really risk averse, or I'm really afraid of failure. Those can be clues that you may be struggling with a level of fixed mindset. Because growth mindset, by contrast, growth mindset really celebrates effort, right? Growth mindset asks us to live our lives just outside our comfort zone, where we can learn and where we can, grow, right? As the name implies. So growth mindset is what challenges us to push ourselves to try new things. It's what challenges us to find joy in that process of learning, right? Growth mindset kind of laughs at perfectionism. Like, who would want to keep doing something that you already know how to do? So it's the opposite. It pulls us into activities and endeavors where challenge lives. And it also, people with a strong growth mindset really don't feel ashamed if there is a period of failure. Right? If there's an episode of failure, it just reminds them that they haven't done it yet, right? So they get back on the horse and they have another try. So with this framework as backdrop, this is a very oversimplified explanation of fixed and growth mindset. Alexandra Eidens decided that she wanted to raise her son with a growth mindset. And she started looking for tools that could support her, and she found that there were precious few of them. So she created them, which is the classic entrepreneur response, right? Well, if it doesn't exist, I will create them. My conversation with her is insightful, it's inspiring. You're going to love her. So without further ado, please meet Alexandra Eidens. Alexandra, thank you so much for being with me today. We are delighted to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Excellent. So I want to kind of start just to give everyone a framework for the work that you do. We mentioned in your intro, you're the founder of the Big Life Journal. Tell me about why you and Scott started it. Why did you bring this into the world?
So Big Life Journal was born in 2017. And that's when I was I just had my baby. So my baby was, my son was born 2016, and that's when I started working on the company. So they all were I was raising them together. So to say, I'm still raising them together, the company and my son. So it was quite challenging at that time. But why did we create the companies? Before I got pregnant, or when I got pregnant, my husband, Scott, and I sat down and had the conversation. How do we want to raise our children, and how do we want to raise our son? And we both are very much into personal development. So we read tons of books. We attended tons of courses when we didn't have children and we had time. We were kind of so much into it. So we had a pretty good start, right? But then at that time, we also got introduced to a book which is called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. And so we had a pretty good idea of how we want to raise our children, and mindset was a big part of it. So growth mindset and mindset of gratitude, mindset of abundance, all of that was very important for us. So we kind of started looking for tools, like how do we instill that? How do we translate that complicated concept that is introduced to adults into child's language? And nothing was available at that time, even though growth mindset was it was getting very popular. It is still quite a popular concept today. And we started thinking, okay, well, let's make something and let's see, for our son and for other children, and see if parents would be interested. So that's how it all started. It was kind of from our own problem that we're trying to solve. And we had a Kickstarter in 2016, and that's a crowdfunding platform. It's when you actually, if you have an idea, you can introduce it to others through crowdfunding and see if others are interested. And that's what we did. And I mean, it's a very long story because actually the first time we failed a Kickstarter and we had to try it again. So, but in the end,
that's life imitating art for you, right?
Right. It's always a happy ending. And that's what happened, right? So in the end, we were successful, and then we basically built a company. I quit my full-time corporate job, and later on, Scott quit his job, and that's what we do now full-time.
So amazing. And I think so many of us have seen, at least I see all the time, ads on Instagram and Facebook for the journal. And I think the artwork is so compelling that it really has stopping power. It immediately invokes curiosity of what is this? So just for people who may not be familiar, tell them, what is the Big Life Journal?
Yeah. So Big Life Journal, and we have two versions of it, one for children and one for teens, is a growth mindset journal. It's guided, it's illustrated, it's very beautiful. And it is basically helping you as an adult, a parent, or even a teacher to go through different concepts with a child through engaging stories and quotes, illustrations. And then you have, kind of prompting questions and space for them to write, to draw. So it's a wonderful connection tool. The kids' journal is done so that you do it together with the journal buddy. So a journal buddy could be a parent or even a grandparent or older sibling. And the child would go through the journal together, and they have those meaningful conversations. So it could be like a wonderful Sunday night activity or something you do before bedtime. And you talk about life, basically. You tell them about your experiences. You share how you failed and how you learned, and things that we don't really talk to our children much because we don't have that environment. Like we don't have circumstances. We don't have time to sit down over cup of tea and say, well, let me tell you about my recent failure, right?
It's so true. And we want our children to think we're great. So I think it's vulnerable and brave to say, let me tell you about times that I didn't succeed. I know my husband and I have been really leaned into this practice with our kids because we want them to try things. And when they see our successes today, they don't always know that, you auditioned for a play and didn't get the part, or you tried out for the team and got cut 4 times. Like they don't know unless we're telling them stories that are relatable to them. So I love that the journal helps pull that out of us. So good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think one of the things that I hear a lot from the moms I work with is they worry about their kids' confidence. We've all seen the data on the confidence dip that happens around middle school, especially in girls, but certainly in both genders. And I wonder what you've learned about how this growth mindset perspective can reinstill confidence in children.
Yeah. So growth mindset in itself is basically when a child or an adult, it's a universal concept, it can be applicable to anyone, is when you believe that you can improve, the power is within you, you can change, you can get better at stuff. You're not born a certain way, versus a fixed mindset, which is the opposite. And it's when you think that you're born a certain way. Basically, you have very limited, you have a set talents, you have set skills. You can't do much about it. And, you might not as well try too hard because, if you're not very good at math, you're not good at math. And that's kind of a fixed mindset, right? Mm-hmm. So when a child learns that they are capable of changing, and their brain and growth mindset it's not only about intelligence, right? Sometimes it is, people think that it's only about how smart you are, but it's not so much about that. It's about anything in your life. So you can change your, character. You can change your intelligence. You can change your physical abilities. You can change anything about yourself. And when we talk about brain specifically, because kids are very concerned about, the grades and compare themselves all the time to their classmates, when they learn that their brain is capable of actually forming new cells and new pathways, new connections, and they are in charge of that. Basically, when they learn something new, when it feels really hard inside their head, that means their brain is actually growing. It's a great thing. And when they practice over and over and over, the brain creates, the pathways between the cells, and they become stronger and stronger. That's how, over time, it will get easier for you. So it's when they learn that information, which is true, it's just neuroplasticity, right? Neurogenesis. They actually understand the powers within them, and it's not like something that they can't change. So they get excited. They understand. They even have, in the journal, we have a visual of brain exercising and building their muscle. And for them, it's very helpful to understand that. And, obviously, they become more confident because now they understand they're in charge of their learning, they're in charge of their intelligence, they're in charge of how smart they are, they're in charge of their goals, and it's just giving them back their power instead of, kind of for them to seek external validation.
Yes.
So, which is very important, right? The internal motivation.
And that's the direct link to confidence. It's the sense of control. So as soon as they make the connection, if I'm understanding you correctly, that they have a level of control over the rate at which they get better, right? Which is effortized. Like the effort is what links you to getting better. And they understand just at a child level, the science, like new pathways in your brain or your brain growing or getting stronger is kind of breaking down neuroplasticity for them. Then they're able to say, oh, I get it. Like, it's like, if I work out, I get stronger. This is, if I continue to persist in learning this new thing, my brain gets stronger. And I love that that's what you've done, is created child-friendly language for them to grasp these concepts and then own them.
Right. And children get this very quick. So they are, very good at it. They understand, as soon as you explain them the science, they understand it. So they get very excited about it.
Mm-hmm. Hey friend, ever wondered why you're so tired all the time? Why you need that afternoon caffeine hit every day just to stay in the game? Hint, you probably need more sleep. So I created something just for you. It's my 7-day sleep makeover. I'll teach you the 3 steps you need to move from exhausted to energized so you can live out your brilliant dreams. Head to brilliantbalance.net/sleep and start your sleep makeover today. You're going to love this. What I love about growth mindset in general and Carol Dweck's work is that it really does help to counter the perfectionism culture that I think a lot of us grew up in. So, a lot of the listeners of this podcast are going to be women in their 30s and 40s and 50s who really were raised in era where perfectionism was like an epidemic. And I think a lot of us are still trying to unlearn those behaviors. So how do you think, this kind of work can really fight that culture of perfectionism?
So growth mindset, a fixed mindset is linked to perfectionism. There's a very strong connection. So when you help your child develop a growth mindset, you will certainly be fighting that, right? So you will have them overcome it. And when kids are perfectionists, they are afraid to fail. They're afraid to make a mistake. They're terrified. I mean, we've seen kids that just they freeze. They don't even try an activity because they don't want to get it wrong. So in that moment, they're in such a fixed mindset. And when Carol Dweck, she was studying, she was developing a growth mindset theory. She was working with children a lot, and she still is working with children. But she was doing a lot of kind of experiments in a classroom environment, and some of them are described in the book mindset. And the book is not just about parenting. It just has a section on parenting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, even if you don't have children, but, you can still read the book, get a lot from it. So when she was doing the experiments, she was testing various things and like how having a growth mindset can impact their results, how can it impact their effort and their overall attitude towards, their school and whatever. So it was interesting experiment she describes is when she gave everyone, so she divided the classroom into two parts, and then she gave everyone one task, which was complete a puzzle. And after everyone completed a puzzle, and they would have to go into the instructor and then turn their paper, and then an instructor would give different types of praises. And the praise would actually, the praise is very important in parenting in general. And I could talk a lot about praise, but there's kind of like a fixed mindset way of praising. There's a growth mindset way of praising, but it shows like this experiment shows the immediate impact, and it's just so fascinating. So an instructor would say, to the first half of the group, he would give a fixed mindset praise. And they would say, oh, you completed that puzzle. You're really, really smart. And to the second half of the group, they would give a growth mindset praise. And they would say something like, oh, you completed this puzzle. You must work really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so after this, this activity, everyone was given a choice. So instructor would give kids a choice and say, okay, well, now you have a choice. You can choose a different kind of puzzle, which is going to be more difficult, or you can choose the same difficulty puzzle. And surprising fact was that almost everyone who was given a fixed mindset praise chose the same difficulty. So they did not want the extra challenge. Right. So why? Because they did not want to get it wrong. They did not want to for instructor to think that they can't get it right and now they're not smart. Yeah. Because they were told that they were smart. And the other half of the group who was given a growth mindset praise, they were told that, they chose a difficult puzzle because now they were actually told that they put forth effort, so they were trying really hard, and that's why they succeeded. And and perfectionism, that's how we help our children overcome it, because as soon as we tell them that it's not, there's a connection between the effort and your result. And if you want to, first of all, some parents go to the extent of never saying perfect in a house, like perfect is a forbidden word. You can never get perfect. You should never strive to be perfect, but you can strive to improve, right? You can strive to get better. And when they get this connection, when they understand there is a connection between the effort, how much effort you put forward, and your result, that's where kind of like the perfectionism starts to reduce and diminish.
Yes. And I love that story in the research because so many of us can think back to the praise we were given as children. And, I think parents think they're doing a good thing by saying you're so smart or you're so pretty or you're so whatever. But those labels where it's like an identity about who we are versus what we do, the effort is about what you've done, then you're like locked into a box where you have nowhere to go but down. right? Any risk outside of I've already proven I know how to do this means I may not get that praise again. So it's very like predictable as soon as you start thinking about it. I just think so many people haven't been exposed to this yet. So I'm delighted that you're sharing this with a new audience of women today. I'm also curious about you, Alexandra, in your life. You're running this business now. You quit your corporate job. You're raising your son. Tell us a little bit about how you structure like your day or your week so you can keep all the pieces moving forward.
So I quit my corporate job in 2017, I think. And before that, I was working really hard. I was working very long hours. I was working in New York City in finance, so you can imagine. And then by nature, I work a lot, and I used to work a lot. So it's just like and then I thought, okay, well, if I work so much for other people, I might as well just work so much for myself. Yes. And that's what happened, right? And to run a successful business, you do actually have to work a lot. But at the same time, I also have structured kind of my life so that I spend a lot of time with my son. And that's what I wanted, basically. I really wanted to be for him, around him a lot of time. During the day, I did not want to come home at 9 or 10 p.m. as I used to from the office and when he's already asleep. So I knew that I had to change something. And that's actually one of the reasons why I became an entrepreneur. And then, during the day, I work during the day, I work at night when he goes to bed. But when he's home, when he's around, like we don't work. We spend a lot of time with him. Like when he's home, we play together. I don't look at my phone at all. I do not multitask. So I try to be like completely fully with him. So, and of course, my husband, who was my co-founder, but then he kind of took over a little bit more of the child raising responsibilities. He also spends a ton of time with him. We don't have a child support. We actually don't have a family around. So it's a situation where it's just two of us raising a child, and it's been wonderful. I mean, like we are so blessed, and my son is so blessed to have his parents around so much. Yes. Without, being, and there's nothing wrong with all different kinds of situations, right? Whatever is your situation, but it's just, we chose to be, to spend a lot of time with him. That's what's happening. And I do, I have a lot of help too, because we also have a big team now, and I work with a lot of freelancers, so it's a effort of a lot of people. Yes. Running a company is a big effort of a lot of people.
Absolutely. And you structure your time, it sounds like, in zones. So you have, time where you're fully dedicated to work and I'm not going to be multitasking, and then time that you're fully dedicated to your family, and then back to another zone for work at night. And I think that's one of the structures that we see work really well. There's a peace of mind in saying, this is where I've decided to be right now, and I'm going to be all in. And then when I choose to be at home and be all in, in those hours at home. So I that's a structure I know well. What do you do for yourself to stay on your A game? Like, how do you what are your foundational like balance practices that keep you feeling like the best you?
Well, first of all, I have to say that I understand, like when you mentioned there is kind of like, this is the time of your life, like, and people sometimes say this is a chapter, right? And it will change, right? When children grow up, it will be different. And I understand that there will be a time when I'll have a lot more free time and time for myself. And actually, I understand that our company is not growing as fast as it could have been growing if I spend more time working instead of spending time with my child. So all of these things I totally get. And this is my choice, right? Okay, so maybe we would have been so much bigger and we would have grown so much faster, but then I would be working all the time. Yes. And I don't want that. So there will be time when he, finally, when he goes to school, when he has a lot of friends and he doesn't want to spend so much time with us, that's when we can start working all we want. And that's when I will maybe spend more time on myself. And the reality is, like, my life is right now my child and my business and on my husband. So, and that's all. I mean, sometimes, I don't even know what I would be doing for myself, quite frankly. Because like when I'm with my son, I'm so happy. When I'm working, I'm so happy. So it's not like I feel like I'm missing anything. Or of course I would have probably spent more time with my friends because I love being with my friends. But I'm a part of a few, well, two now, masterminds.
Yes.
And my friends are there. So
Yes.
that's when I kind of combine the business and the friendships. And that's helping me a lot to not feel lonely and to not like feel that I'm completely isolated from society.
Well, and that's a really good example of the 2-for-1. Like I will often say, like, if I want to work out, but I can go out and go for a run or a walk with a friend, I'm getting a 2-for-1, right? I get to do it, but I don't have to do it all by myself for that to count. And you're saying, I want to have time with women, but I'm doing them through a business mastermind. So there's a little bit of a 2-for-1, right?
That's right.
And it sounds like for you right now, time with your son is deeply rewarding. And so that's a piece of what you're doing. It makes you feel whole, right? There's no right answer. I think I'm just always insanely curious about what women who are running businesses or running big pieces of corporations are doing to kind of navigate the pieces. And our audience is always endlessly curious about that as well. So I have a speed round to wrap us up today, and there are just a few questions in here. So we'll just do the first thing that comes to your mind. First one is, what makes you feel brilliant?
What makes me feel brilliant? I feel brilliant every single day.
I love it.
Because I understand that what I'm doing, and our company grew to being, it's still a small business, but it is, 7 figures and it's quite large. So I understand that what I'm doing is not everyone is capable of doing, especially the fact that I actually don't work full time. So, and it's been only 2 years. So I feel like I give myself at the end of the day when I feel like defeated or there's like so much to do, and I just give myself a lot of credit. Say, hey, you know what? You grew this business to a pretty large, substantial, size, and you did it basically, starting by yourself, and then now you're not even working full time. So, so don't, beat yourself up so much. And that's kind of like my self-talk at the end of the day.
I love it. I love it. And getting yourself to own it matters, right? Being able to say, like, I did this. Okay. Second one is, what is your favorite time savings or productivity hack?
When I became a parent, I become very productive. And I think it's true for a lot of parents because, sometimes in the morning, I only have 2 hours before my son comes home for lunch. And I usually make him lunch. So I even have less time because then I have to count time for cooking. But I am super productive during those 2 hours. It's just a necessity. It's a necessity because you got to have stuff done. And the reality is when I didn't have, I wasn't a parent. When I wasn't a parent, I was not as efficient, quite frankly. I would, look at my phone or, look at, social media or check my email twice and refresh to see if there are any new emails. None of that is happening right now. I'm literally like looking at my, phone to see what time it is. I was like, oh my God, I have 20 minutes and, nothing else matters. I'm working really, really fast.
Yes. It's like the shot clock. One of the women on my team says she's living on a shot clock. I'm like, I get that. Yeah. Next one is, what have you had to learn to say no to?
Oh my gosh, I'm saying so many no's. And so when we started growing, and in the very beginning, when you start your business, nobody knows about you. So you're quite new, you're quite small. And if somebody reaches out to you with like an offer to collaborate or like do anything together, you get so excited. You want to say yes to everything because like, oh my gosh, somebody, knows about me, about our company. And since we started growing, there are so many requests for all sorts of things from different people around the world, wanting to help us to translate everything into their own language. And then, publishers around the world try to buy the rights to publish in their country. And at first I was I felt like I was missing out. Quite frankly, I was kind of like, got me anxious. As soon as I receive an email, I was like, I don't have time for this. But then I feel like it's maybe a good opportunity. Am I missing out? Should I be doing this instead of that? And then at some point, I just decided I'm going to let it go, because at the end of the day, maybe some of those opportunities that I said no to would have been fantastic, but I don't know, right? And
right.
I would have had to do all of them to find out. And certainly I don't have time for this. So we're saying actually a lot of no's. And, like I said, maybe we're missing out, but it is just, you have to keep sane. Like, you have to stay sane,
Absolutely.
and yeah.
Sleep at some point. There has to be some sleep, right? Okay, last question is, what song do you turn on when you need to get in the zone?
I don't. Well, actually, I just turn on the music that, my son loves. And, and it's just when we are together, I quite frankly don't listen to music alone. I don't drive like I used to, maybe when I was driving, but now we live in the city and I walk everywhere. So when I walk, I listen to podcasts, and that's my groove. Like, I listen to so many of them, or audiobooks. So I completely disconnected from the
world of music,
from the world of music and the modern culture. I don't even know.
I love it. You're like, I listen to Kids Bop. That's my jam right now.
And it's like wheels on the bus, and that's what we listen to today.
I remember those days. You are delightful, Alexandra. So I'm so grateful for your time today. I want to make sure people know the best places to find you online, and then we will link those in the show notes. So what is the number one place you would send them online?
You can start with biglifejournal.com. And part of what we do is we provide a lot of free resources. And that's how we actually grew so fast, is word of mouth. Is if you subscribe to our newsletter, we send you every Friday a free resource, which would be like an activity with your child, or like a thing that you can print, or a craft, or something that is related to growth mindset and things that we do. It is absolutely free. You don't have to buy anything to join this. And then, yeah, you can just take advantage of that. And we also have, a very vibrant growth mindset private Facebook group, which grew to over 100,000 people in a year and a half. So you can imagine it is moderated.
Moderator, right?
It's actually, we have a person whose job is to manage the group. And then we also have 15 moderators who are volunteers and who are like professional coaches or parenting coaches or therapists. It's curated, right? It's, there's no free for all. And that's why people love it so much. And yeah, you can join it as well. And if you have a specific question, or you have a specific trouble or issue that you're facing, you can ask the question and you will get help there.
That's awesome. Well, I hope everyone listening today checks it out. It sounds like the Facebook group will link to in the show notes, also the biglifejournal.com. That's a great place to get your free resources. But I think honestly, buy the journal, guys. This is going on my gift list for the children in my life this year, and I am super excited to share it with them. So thank you so much for your time today. It was great having you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, didn't you just love that and love her? Listen, let's share this episode with our parent friends who could benefit from it. I would love you to go, first of all, find those free resources on the Big Life Journal website, or grab a journal for the kids in your life. We have that linked in the show notes for you. And also, I want to remind you that the doors are open for our next energy challenge. 30 Days to Vibrant Energy starts on Monday, November 4th. So grab your spot today and come join us. We've done this now 2 times. It has been exceptional to see the change that the women in this challenge have been able to create in their lives. So the energy challenge is a great place to remind yourself that while you may be feeling exhausted today, it's really only because you haven't learned yet how to manage your energy, right? Great example of growth mindset. And I would love to share all of my secrets with you. So go to CherylanneSkolnicki.com/30-day challenge. You'll get all the information and the registration link there. I hope you can join us. And then come find us in the Brilliant Balance Facebook group. That is the best place to stay up to date on all things Brilliant Balance. Just head over to Facebook, search for groups, and find the one called simply Brilliant Balance. We will welcome you in and make you an official member of the tribe. That's all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.